20 miles. That is the distance across which the atmosphere is about to change by 40 degrees in terms of dew point today across the southern plains. On one side of a line you can draw on a map, air so dry it feels like a desert. On the other side, air so humid it belongs in Florida in August. 20 to 30 miles separating the two. That boundary is called a dry line. And when a dry line is this sharp, when the moisture contrast across it is this extreme, the thunderstorms that fire along it are not ordinary thunderstorms. They are explosive, they are organized, and they are dangerous. This is what is setting up across Texas and Oklahoma right now, and it is the opening act of a pattern that will keep the atmosphere active from today all the way through the middle of next week and beyond. Let's start with today's immediate threats, because more than 20 million people are inside an active risk zone right now. The primary severe weather zone today stretches across West Texas and eastern New Mexico, a slight risk for that corridor. The thunderstorms developing here will produce widespread winds in the 50 to 70 mile/hour range, hail up to 2 inches in diameter, and a low-end tornado risk for the areas around Abilene, Wichita Falls, and San Angelo. These are not fringe possibilities. They are legitimate expected outcomes from the strongest cells in this environment today. Flash flooding is a separate and significant concern across central Texas and Oklahoma. The moisture concentration in this region right now is unusually high. When that moisture-laden air generates slow-moving thunderstorms, the rainfall totals stack up fast. 2 to 4 inches is the expected range across the most affected areas. Some localized pockets could approach 6 inches. In Texas and Oklahoma, 6 inches of rainfall in a few hours means flooded roads, stalled vehicles, and rapidly rising creeks. Do not drive through flooded roadways today. In this pattern, the water you cannot see is often deeper and moving faster than you expect. Turn around and wait it out. Further north, across the broader plains from Kansas through Wisconsin, a marginal severe threat covers an enormous footprint today. Isolated severe thunderstorms with golf ball-sized hail and gusty winds are possible across this entire zone, and there is one specific element worth calling out. Northwest of Kansas City, across northeastern Kansas, northwestern Missouri, and southwestern Iowa, a discrete supercell forming in this zone could produce a tornado if it latches onto a surface boundary. Low probability, but real. Even as far north as Minneapolis, hail is possible from elevated thunderstorms today. This is the signature of how loaded the atmosphere is with moisture and instability at every latitude. Now, tomorrow. And here is where the forecast requires your patience, because tomorrow comes with a critical piece of uncertainty that will determine everything. Morning convection. Rain and thunderstorm activity overnight and into tomorrow morning could mix out the atmospheric instability before the afternoon heating cycle has a chance to reload the environment. If that happens, if the morning convection is heavy and sustained, tomorrow's threat will be significantly lower than the ingredients suggest. But if tomorrow morning stays relatively quiet, if the overnight storms clear out without consuming the full energy available, then tomorrow afternoon and evening could produce something very different. The dry line pushing through Wichita, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. Conditions favoring discrete supercells across this corridor and extending northward into Wisconsin near the Eau Claire and Minneapolis area. Baseball-sized hail, 70 mile/hour winds, a 2% tornado threat that covers the corridor from Kansas southward to San Antonio and across eastward into East Texas, eastern Oklahoma, and western Arkansas. Watch the morning forecast tomorrow. If overnight storms are heavy and widespread, the afternoon threat gets suppressed. If the morning clears, you have a very different afternoon on your hands. This distinction will be clear by mid-morning. Monday introduces the next distinct phase. A sharp dry line sets up across Texas and Oklahoma, and this one has the potential to produce some of the largest hail of this entire multi-day outbreak. Supercells near Lubbock and Oklahoma City will be tracking in an environment with very large hail and damaging wind potential. Tornadoes are also possible along this boundary Monday, particularly in the area where the dry line and a warm frontal boundary intersect. And the moisture contrast on Monday is even more dramatic than today. Within a 20 to 30 mile distance, dew points jumping from the 20s and 30s on the dry side to the 60s and 70s on the moist side. That kind of gradient is the fuel injection system for violent supercell development. Storms that fire along that boundary Monday will have access to enormous atmospheric energy immediately upon forming. The northern tier on Monday also deserves mention. A cluster of elevated storms will lift northward with the warm frontal boundary, bringing significant hail into Minnesota and the Dakotas during the day. And this activity continues overnight into Wisconsin. If you're in northern Minnesota or the Dakotas on Monday, hail is a real possibility, even if the sky doesn't look classic severe weather. Tuesday. This is the day that the entire setup has been building toward. The slight risk designation on Tuesday stretches from Detroit all the way to Des Moines to Minneapolis. That is a massive geographic footprint, but the headline is not the geographic size. The headline is the conditional possibility of a tornado outbreak in the Midwest if the atmospheric setup comes together correctly. A strong, low-level jet, a concentrated flow of wind in the lower atmosphere, will be positioned over Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri on Tuesday. This low-level jet feeds moisture northward explosively. It provides the wind shear that causes supercells to rotate, and the warm front lifting through this zone will be the trigger that releases the energy that has been building since the weekend. Two scenarios are possible on Tuesday. In the first scenario, the storms upscale quickly into a large organized line, a QLCS system, that races through Wisconsin and Illinois. This scenario is dangerous for widespread damaging winds and embedded tornadoes, but it limits the individual supercell tornado potential. In the second scenario, discrete supercells fire along the warm front and maintain their organization before the line consolidates. This scenario has a much higher ceiling for tornado production. Multiple tornadoes, possibly significant ones. Which scenario verifies depends on details that will sharpen over the next 24 hours. Watch the Tuesday morning forecast closely. If discrete supercells are firing ahead of the main line, the tornado outbreak scenario is on the table. What is not in question for Tuesday is the severity of the wind threat. Whether we get discrete supercells or a squall line, or both at different times, the wind threat across Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan on Tuesday is significant. Structural damage, power outages, dangerous travel conditions. These are near certain outcomes on Tuesday regardless of which storm mode dominates. And then Wednesday and Thursday extend the active pattern southward and eastward. Springfield, Illinois, Lafayette, Indiana, the Ohio Valley. By Thursday, the Mid-Atlantic is in the active window with damaging winds, hail, and a low tornado threat. This system does not produce a single day and then exit. It marches east continuously, exposing new population centers to severe weather as it goes. Before we close, I want to say something directly about the nature of this multi-day pattern. When you hear that severe weather is possible every day for the next several days, there is a natural tendency to normalize it, to start treating each individual day as less serious than the first one, to assume the first day was the dangerous one and the rest are just follow-on events. That assumption is dangerous in this pattern. Tuesday's tornado outbreak potential is not a follow-on event. It is potentially the most significant day of the entire stretch, coming after several days of active weather have already occurred. Storm fatigue and pattern fatigue both lead people to be less prepared on the high-risk days that come later in a sequence. Don't let that happen. Tuesday deserves the same attention as day one. Here is your clean timeline. Today, West Texas, eastern New Mexico, Central Plains through Wisconsin. Slight risk in West Texas and eastern New Mexico. 50 to 70 mile/hour winds, 2-inch hail, low tornado risk near Abilene and Wichita Falls. Flash flooding risk in central Texas and Oklahoma, 2 to 4 inches, localized 6 inches. Marginal threat from Kansas City through Wisconsin. Conditional tornado threat northwest of Kansas City. Tomorrow. Conditional on morning convection. If morning clears, dryline outbreak potential from Wichita through Dallas and northward into Wisconsin. Baseball-sized hail, 70 mile/hour winds, 2% tornado risk. Watch morning forecast. If morning storms are heavy, threat significantly reduced. Monday. Texas, Oklahoma, Dakotas, Minnesota. Sharp dryline supercells near Lubbock and Oklahoma City. Very large hail, damaging winds, tornado risk along dryline warm front intersection. Hail threat in Minnesota and the Dakotas from elevated storm cluster. Tuesday. Detroit through Des Moines through Minneapolis. Most dangerous day of the pattern. Slight risk across the entire corridor. Tornado outbreak potential if discrete supercells maintain organization. Significant wind threat certain regardless of storm mode. Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, all in the active zone. Watch Tuesday morning forecast for storm mode clarity. Wednesday through Thursday. Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. Active severe weather continues moving east. Springfield, Lafayette, Cleveland, Fort Wayne, all in the window. Mid-Atlantic enters the threat zone by Thursday. Stay connected to every day of this forecast. See you in the next update.